Gibeah was a town occupied by the tribe of Benjamin. Remember that, tribe of Benjamin. And it had become a symbol from the terrible deeds that were done there. During the days of the judges, a Levite, traveling and unable to reach home, sought shelter for himself and his concubine there in Gibeah. A band of depraved youth gathered outside his host's house and desired homosexual relationships with his guest. This is very similar to what went on in Sodom in Genesis 19, if you recall. The host instead delivered his concubine to them instead. And she was used all night and left on the doorstep dead. The Levite took her body home, cut it into 12 pieces, and sent the parts of each to each of the tribes of Israel. 12 tribes, 12 pieces. That did exactly what he intended it to do. It shocked the nation. The shock succeeded. They rallied and attacked the people of Benjamin and almost wiped them out. In fact, there's a denouement of the story where Benjamin is reduced to 600, and there's a big drive to get brides for them so the tribe of Benjamin would endure. That's a subsequent chapter in this sordid story. The atrocities, the near wipeout of the tribe of Benjamin, were indicative of the low point of the morality of the people of the times. It's included in the book of Judges to be idiomatic of just how horrible circumstance it occurred. And by the way, all through the book of Judges, there's a phrase that occurs. You find it in the Proverbs twice. Every man did what was right in his own eyes. Out of context, it sounds fine. Everybody did what they thought was right. No, in the context of the book of Judges and the way it's used in the Bible, that's used as the nadir, the deepest part of its dip into immorality. It's the most immoral you can be when everyone did what they thought was right. No absolutes. On that occasion it was said, such a thing has never been seen or done, not since the day the Israelites came out of Egypt. So Gibeah tends to be idiomatic of that low, shocking depravity. But Hosea announces that the benchmark of history has now been rivaled by Israel's blatant sins against the Lord. What Hosea is saying, even Gibeah is now outdone by Israel and her immorality with regards to the God of the universe. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your fathers as the first ripe in the fig tree at her first time, but they went to Baal Peor and separated themselves into that shame, and their abominations were according as they loved. Actually, that shameful idol is what it should be translated there. That shame, and it implies a shameful idol. Baal Peor, idolatry. There's a unique idolatry we're dealing with here. This is referencing Israel's origins. That was when the Lord found extreme delight in the nation. Grapes in the desert would be an unexpected source of surprise and delight. That's the phrase, what grapes in the desert is. It's a pleasant surprise is what it means. The delicious early fruit on the fig tree was considered irresistible. However, the Lord's attitude towards people soon changed. When they arrived at Peor, they engaged in sexual immorality with the Moabite and Midianite women as part of fertility rites associated with the worship of Baal Peor. And that's what Numbers 25 is all about, Balaam and all of that. You can study that in the book of Numbers. This deity, which God calls the shameful idol, may have been a local manifestation of the Canaanite fertility god Baal. Baal is a collective term, if you will. This event in Moses' day was mentioned here because it set the pattern for Israel's subsequent history characterized by unfaithfulness. Baal Peor is way past the time that Hosea. He's making a historical allusion here. In Hosea's day, Israel had also defiled herself by making Baal her lover, and like the generation of Peor, they too had engaged in fertility rites, sexual promiscuity under the banner of religious ceremonies. And this movement from joy to despair is also found in the Song of Moses, by the way, Deuteronomy 32. The utter insanity of paganism. It's staggering to try to understand the insanity of paganism. Who can tally the blood which has been spilled upon the altars of the gods who are not, and the demons who are? When the knowledge of the true and living God is refused, false gods inevitably fill the vacuum. Big lesson here. We become like the gods we worship. I know I hammer this several times, but I think it's valid here. Are idols of stone cold, unresponsive, and impersonal? Of course. If you worship them, you too will become cold, unresponsive, and impersonal. Is the world materialistic, harsh, and unforgiving? Absolutely. If you worship the world, you too will become materialistic, harsh, and unforgiving. That's why it's important that you worship Christ, because then you'll become like him. And as Hamlet might say, devoutly to be wished. Covetousness and greed, also called idolatry in Colossians 3:5. Covetousness and greed are idolatry. The collapse of Wall Street is because of their idolatry. The collapse of our materialistic society is because of our idolatry.